Hey Health Seekers, a few people texting me, asking me why I speak out about everything that's going on. And a lot of people saying that they already know it, but they'd rather just keep quiet about it all. Well, I don't want to keep quiet about it because I'd rather die standing upright than on my knees to the garbage that's going on. And people are questioning about, surely the government is there to help us, and the government and the healthcare system is all to keep us healthy. Well, I just want to say this quickly to everyone before you watch any of my videos. Go look up the history of allopathic medicine. The turn of the century, you had the allopaths and you had the naturopaths. And there was a little bit of satire that the treatment from the allopathic doctors would kill you, and the disease with the naturopathic doctors would kill you. So the allopaths are the modern medics of today. And what J.D. Rockefeller did was he bought into the government and he bought into the whole healthcare system, and he got rid of all the naturopathic doctors, the herbalists, the acupuncturists, the nutritionists. And what happened was anyone who wanted a medical license had to come to him. So he wouldn't give the naturopaths licenses. So a lot of the naturopathic medical schools closed. I'm planning on doing my naturopathic doctorate this year. So that's what he did. And then so what you had was all of these medical schools, he put 2 people on each of the boards and he pumped loads of money into them. So he had a complete control over it. So the original quacks were the allopaths. They did all the quack treatment. And then they call the natural ones the quacks. So then what you had was they owned all of the medical schools. Now they own all of the medical magazines. Now they own all of the medical elite. Big Pharma chooses who is going to be the medical elite. They choose who gets the top jobs. They choose what gets published in all the medical journals. And it's very difficult for people to speak out, even if they can refute what's being said. Because to speak out, they can lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods, and they can lose their lives. And a lot of them have lost their lives. Over 200 doctors, I believe Erin Elizabeth, you can switch over to her page and read. She completely covered all these doctors being killed. So another thing that you could look at while you're on your unlawful lockdown, because that's what it is. I'm not on lockdown. Is that you could go and have a look at what happens when you're born and the cord is cut. Your parents then take you and they record the birth. And what that is you're being tied then to the system, and a straw man's created with your name, because they've made your soul and your body into a corporate entity so they can make money from you. And that's all it is. So like when you register your car, when you fill in your details on your car registration, it records you as the keeper, not the owner. So if you don't pay the taxes and everything else that are also, you don't have to, then they can come and take your things from you. So that's what you're doing. So you could go look into all that while you're off. I just didn't start looking into medicine 12 years ago. Before I had cancer, I was looking at all of the lies and the banking and everything else. And I just hate knowing that the 1% look on the 99%, that's the rest of us. They look on us as scum. They look on us as ants. They look on us as just what money we can make for them and what we can do for them. And when we no longer can do or be of any purpose to them, they want us out the way. They want us depopulated. They want us gone. And so if you think for a minute that your government really cares about you, you're seriously, seriously deluded. They just don't. Nelly! They don't care at all. And if you think that the healthcare system is really there for you, I'm not saying that all doctors are bad and all nurses. A lot of them are really good. There are some really crap ones, and there's a lot of crap nurses, and there's a lot of crap in all professions. But when you go to work and you get paid, your money goes in the bank, and for every dollar, every pound, that bank can loan you 10 times that and charge you interest on your money. That's how people do it. I know someone that set up a microbank. They do it just to make money from other people's money. So you get paid and you pay your national insurance, and then you're all working in these industries in the hospital. And you're getting paid and you're working and it all goes back into the bank, and those 1% are making money off you. So it doesn't make sense for us to be healthy. They need you sick. So they feed you foods, they sell you foods, that's why they're so cheap, that are full of garbage. So the Food and Drug Administration and the equivalent over here, that's what they do. So the foods are poisonous, the air's poisonous, the water's poisonous. It's to make you sick. And you're paying to get sick. That's why I always say it, paying to get sick, paying to be sick, paying to be treated, paying to be disposed of. It's all part of it. And it sounds really dark, but that is what's happening. And that's what led me to Christ, the Alpha and the Omega. Because when I started to find all this out, it was so dark, so horrible. And that 1%. And the other thing as well I'm going to say, and I'm going to say this on record because I don't want to die with this in me. That 1%, you see them putting their hands in their jackets, covering their eye, doing the triangle. They're all into devil worship. All of them. You can follow Sasha Stone, who knows a lot about it. They do hideous, hideous things. I looked at all of that. David Icke talks about it. I've seen child abuse when I worked in A&E. I've seen horrible stuff, and I know horrible stuff. But this is on a whole new level. If you go watch I don't like to watch TV, and I got given tickets to go and see a movie. And it was the follow-up movie to The Shining. And it was all about that, how they didn't show you sodomizing the child, but it was about how torturing the child before they kill it, and they were stealing the breath. But of course, we know it's not that in these satanic sacrifices. It's the blood they're after and the brain, etc. But they sodomize the children. I've heard recordings of that. And this all goes on, and that's that 1%. And if you think it doesn't happen, and this is really offensive to anyone out there that's a snowflake, it's all linked. These people that are running the show now, it's all linked. And thousands upon thousands of children go missing every year in the care system. The whole social, when you're studying at uni, you're studying the family, and you think you're studying how the family live. That's not what it is. The system is put in place first, and the family has to fit into it. That's why if you've got kids, if you've got 4 kids from one father, you get so much money for the first, so much for the second, less for the third, and so on. You've got 4 kids from all different dads, you get the same peak amount of money for each one of them. And the system's set up like that to keep the fathers out of the picture, because that makes the children more predisposed to paedophilia, and they're more likely to end up in the judicial system. And that is fact, what I'm telling you. Now, I'm going to tell you 2 things, and I know they're to be true because they were told straight to me, and the second one made me cry. Actually, I'll tell you the second one first. I have a client in my aesthetics clinic, and I'm not going to say who she is, but she came to see me in the last 12 months, and she works for very rich people. She's part of crews that go out to rich people's yachts, the Americans, the Russians, celebs. I've got a few girls that come to me that do that job, and this particular one, she came to me and she told me about the prostitutes that they bring on board. Okay, fair enough. This is just in the last 12 months. So I've got 3 that come to me. And the prostitutes that come to the yachts, and she said, and it's horrible how they have to clean up all the feces out of the shower and the butt plugs and all the rest of it. And then I said to her, do they ever bring children on board? And she paused. And then she said to me, yes, they do. This is the really rich Russians, Americans, there's British people there, celebs. I said, how young are we talking? She said, young. So this is still going on everywhere with these disgusting filth that are running the show now. That 1%. All those celebrities you see, who's that? Abramovich, that mental artist in America that they all love. And she literally paints pictures and does sculptures of kids being abused. Why is she not hanging from a rope somewhere? So when you think your government is looking out for you, all of those crowd, all of these celebs, Madonna who looks like a Halloween cake, and she's giving money to Bill Gates. That stupid woman, what's her name? Lady Gaga, another one. And they all went to this party, and it was all in the celeb magazines, that trashy stuff in the supermarket. I read them for free. It's called My Library. I don't buy anything. And they're all eating a giant life-size cake of an adolescent. They're eating a cake of an adolescent. Then they go to another party. It was all in the press. They were all saying how amazing it was with this weird artist woman. I think her name is Abramovich or something like that. You'll all know who she is. Dark, looks really creepy like a witch. And she had a fake body in a tank, and they were all scooping out a little egg cup full of they were saying it was water and fruit juice, whatever, alcohol. It was blood coloured. That's what these freaks do. Come on. So that's what's going on. So that was the first one. So it's still going on. In the last 12 months, I've been told about little kids going to yachts, these big fancy yachts, to be abused. That's happening. Made me feel physically sick. Who do you tell? Who do you go to tell that? Because we had a conversation about that. You'd get killed. She couldn't tell anybody. The next thing, I was down in London a couple of years ago when the Harvey Weinstein case broke, and I was at the London clinic having some of my treatment. One of the nurses there, she said to me, I know you're into truth and everything else. Can I speak to you? She's known me for a few years. She shut the door and she told me when she was first qualified, she'd worked there, and a young girl came in. Now, anyone, a nurse and doctor, will tell you, any patient, you have the name on the paperwork, you have the date of birth, you have the address, you have the hospital number. There was no date of birth on that girl's notes that came in. No date of birth at all. She had trauma to her back passage and her colon, and she was in there for surgery. She was in there for several weeks, and there was two people, a man and a woman with a well-dressed, that never left the room. And now I know this came straight from the nurse. She told me this, and she was very troubled by it. And she was very young when it happened. And she said to me, only for 5 minutes at one stage before this girl left did they both leave the room. And the girl gripped her wrist and said, I'm Jack Nicholson and Roman Polanski's girl. Now, the reason I knew that to be true, I raced down the stairs after my treatment, sat downstairs in the London Oncology Clinic. They'll probably never let me in there again now. And I was having my nipples tattooed on. The colours where I'd had a double mastectomy and reconstruction. I go every year and have the colour tattooed back on. And I phoned the guy that I was engaged to, who has a clinic in Mexico. And he had somebody staying at his clinic whose mother lived with Jack Nicholson, and so did she for 5 years, a very well-known celebrity and singer. And she couldn't remember any of that 5 years that she was there. She'd been to lots of counsellors because of trauma. So I'm not going to die with that in my body now, because I've just told thousands of you and it's going to go out. So I read a book about the Sharon Tate murders. Now, we all know Roman Polanski was into, I don't believe he's allowed in for touching up little girls or sodomizing them. A 13-year-old, I believe. But this girl, I said to this nurse, how old did this girl look? She went, I don't know, young, 12, 13. So then, hi folks. Little chihuahuas. So then, I've lost my train of thought now. So she said that this had happened, Jack Nicholson, Roman Polanski's girl. I read a book, part of a book, I think it was a couple of years ago, and it talked, after she told me that, apparently Jack Nicholson was at Roman Polanski's house cleaning the blood after the Sharon Tate murders when the police got there. Do you see this whole Hollywood elite, all of them? It's been going on forever. It's going on forever that they take children and they do all these sacrifices with them. And they all own, this is the 1%, and this is what's going on. Truth and lies. But when I've had two people tell me that straight to me, I'm getting goosebumps as I say it. You know, sometimes anyone who's watching me knows I'm a Christian, and I absolutely have God fear in me. I answer to God above. Absolutely, because I know that I'll stand before him in judgment when I die, and he decides when I die. That's why I don't need to stay safe. Stop saying that to me. I've had loads of death threats. I don't care. But when I've read the stuff I've read over the years, I sometimes wonder whether I got told those two things that were so direct because I was meant to be told them. So yeah, this is what you think you're... What's that? And how the poor celebs who don't join in get killed. They do. Yeah, and folks, that movie, you're talking about the follow-on movie. I don't know what you call it. Do you call it the sequel? It was called The Shining, the first movie. So I was given this tickets from a friend. I don't watch violence. I very rarely watch TV, actually. And it was this movie, and they had this group of people that had this gift. And they could, this particular woman, she could travel out of